Hello. What is feeding your body and freeing your soul means? Um, and about receiving love and releasing forgiveness and love to yourself. Um, I came to America many years ago. I heard this phrase on the radio only. It says, it's not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for the country. And my dad raised me with this phrase: be an asset, don't become a liability. So I carry that principle with me. My name is Mary Axness. I'm 69 years old and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. By the way, I'm so happy to meet so many wonderful women. So let me start by saying, what is physically and preventively keeping yourself well, especially build up your immunity. And we all know recently what that's all about. But mainly, preventive health is something that we can do, take care of ourselves, and it's invaluable. Let me start by just recounting a few things. So many of us have gone through traumatic physical and chronic illness, but one thing we don't realize is we must feed our body well to continue this journey. And what does that look like? What it looks like to me was taking good care of yourself. Self-care is not self-indulgence. It is about taking responsibility for our own health. It's our inheritance. It's our right to live a healthy life. But then when my children were teenagers, I had 3 incidents all together. Now, uh, it was separated by some very unforeseen illness that I had a growth, and the doctor said I would not be able to make it to leave the hospital. And I live on faith, and never a moment did I allow fear to get inside my heart. And that's pretty basic to begin with, but from that point on, I realized if I'm going to get out of this, I have to really imagine what life can be like to give myself hope within that 3 days and 3 nights. And I made a lot of declarations, and I dream and imagine what it will be like for me to see my children get married, have grandkids, and then ultimately my final goal and my final yes to myself was to build a legacy, not just of faith, but of not being a liability to my children. And because my children at that time was too young to even recognize what's going on. Basically, there's a growth that came on very suddenly. There was no notice. And what happened was the doctor said there's so much lymph node built up that I would die of suffocation. And I did feel like my voice was slowly and gradually choking out. And so I knew I only had 3 days. But the long and short of that story was I made these declarations, imagine and fill with hope rather than fear. I wouldn't even let anybody else know. And all the flowers that came in, I said, I am not dead yet. So anyway, my husband is a physician on staff, but he know me enough that when I make that kind of declaration, I mean every word. And thankful that the hospital staff, they says, okay, we agreed. Let's believe with you. And they didn't hassle me. And with that, I feel like it's an amen all the way. And I got the courage enough to get back into my room and believe, and literally the stitches all dissolved by itself. And then I started a new journey from there on, a profound, deep, deep journey of discovery, and enter into naturopathic college. And the revelation of the fact that my body is created to do its own healing if I give it the proper nutrients and surround myself with positive thoughts and trust. At that time, I was quite alone. The kids were too young to even know what it is. So I learned that this body is created to do its own healing. All I have to do is to give it a chance, rest well, and get back into a state of health. Because now, in naturopath medicine, I actually teach a culture of eating well to prevent and reverse chronic illness. So if you feed your body well, had it not been my preventive style of eating and feeding myself, I would not have functioned the way I am today. The other two medical issue was I had a traumatic brain injury. Something fell on my head at a department store. As it turned out, it was a big piece of luggage and knocked me over. And they just said, your skull is kind of soft. You had a concussion. Again, there was no medication, no surgery can be done, but that healing took a little longer, almost 2.5 to 3 years, I would say. And depression sets in. I wasn't able to speak the way I want to, and every move was slow. All my hopes and plan had to be putting on the shelf. And then finally, somebody is a bad car accident and broke all 7 ribs on my left side. Car was totaled. But you know what? Because I've been feeding myself well, you see, nobody else will take care of you unless you take care of yourself. That had gave me a foundation of letting the body do its job. Now, with that said, this is what I live for, to help people to regain a state of quality of health so that the body can do its own immunity work. Now, feeding the soul. What is that? Number one, I had to realize what is my big yes in life, to free my soul, to be all I can be. I do that. My big why is for my future generation. And I share with Gertrude, I'm doing this for my grandkids. And I'm training them every time when I see them. What's the lie and the fear? And they go, ha, 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 that's a lie. I'm not taking it. So just that gives me a lot of joy. And growing up in Hong Kong in the 50s, among 4 million people, over 7 million now, with diverse ethnicity and culture, you become an ambassador to the world. And Hong Kong flourished as the pearl of the Orient. Breeding and growing people like me, learning and adapting to seasonal changes. Change and grow is part of life. I can represent women well now, cross-culturally. I can be an American with a Hong Kong lens. Now, as beautiful as it sounds, my mother just recently passed away. I reflected on my previous generation of Asian women who had a long recorded history of concubines, decades of polygamy that threatens their feminine soul, and their souls are not free. Just as I was one choked out of life when the doctor said they can't do anything, I would just die of suffocation. But there's a different kind of suffocation going on. So I am so grateful, especially after my mother died last year. She prepared her death well. And my grandmother, my mother, they set quality examples of sacrificial love. They fed well and cared for their own family, especially my mother. During famine time, she sacrificed everything to feed her family inside China while in Hong Kong taking care of us. And over 50 members of the family did not starve to death because of her courageous journey of life to show us families are important. And so with that said, I became a missionary. For 10 years, I went back to China. Instead of feeding them with physical food, I feed them with soul and spiritual food. And I'm continuing a legacy to extend to my extended family. Indeed, these women face life with grace, honor, vision for a better future for their generation, just like me. I'm always encouraged by what my mother embraced with trials of life, by quick forgiveness and hope-filled smile for her tomorrow. And you don't conjure up those things, but you can dream, you can imagine, and being disciplined. And I love that. And also the final ingredient is always be grateful. Always be grateful. When I see women, especially the ones I coach and help, sometimes I have to say, who broke your heart when all things failed? So today, I just want to extend an invitation to say to women cross globally, what is your big yes? And what are you leaving? What kind of footprint are you leaving for your future generation? I am so blessed. I'm almost completely healed from the brain trauma, because at times I'll find myself a little slow. That means it's time to take a nap. Be nice to yourself and forgive your past so that you can forgive others, so that you can also release forgiveness to bring reconciliation, because relationship can be so burdensome if you don't feel well to even communicate well. So release others. And I want to send a loud invitation about what freedom is all about. Freedom is great responsibility to yourself, be a good friend to yourself and to others, as well as freedom is not obnoxious. Freedom is grateful and gracious. Take care of yourself. Release your best to others, and it will come back to you. So I want to send a big invitation to women, especially now. I'm 69, pushing 70. Time is getting short. So I want to send an invitation by inviting everybody to come to these. Going to her story. Can you all see? And to copy this down. And I want to invite you to take the first step. Take the first step. These are basic to begin with. And I will be so happy to work with you, to encourage you, to run with you. Join my gentle roar. Thank you.